That's your board.
Apply for the fire department.
Oh, that's okay, because I had enough people collectively, so I had about 16 people there. So I had 13 completed, so that was perfect.
Okay.
And it generated, today it actually generated. It's, you know, how you can avoid that.
Okay, well, sorry. I tried, but.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, okay.
Cool.
I just come as you are. Have you ever had one of those come as you are things?
I have a lot of.
Is it fun, I think?
They call you early in the morning when you're in colors.
No, they come and get you. They don't call you, how do you know what you're gonna say? People won't know what they're on.
Oh, yeah, no.
Haven't we already done this?
Back in the day.
Which
when
one?
people were honest,
Oh, that's
they
true,
call
that's
and-
true, yeah.
Haven't we pretty much already told them we want them to do what
Yeah.
they have to?
Yeah.
Not since they're asking for permission.
I think we
How many
gave
times
Chris.
do we have to do it?
Yeah, go for it, man. Yeah.
Oh,
is
this,
Get her done.
Hey, Chuck, from the start, I've been having chest pains all day. If I get up and blast out of here, you'll know why, okay? So just go on like nothing ever happened.
Should we, at one of those kids, call somebody?
Oh, man, I hesitate.
Oh, you do?
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so- Just bury me where I fall.
You're supposed to have that imprint on your chest here. Tattoo on the DNR.
Mike, you know. No, nothing special.
Chuck was gonna say.
If you pull over right there, we're good.
Well, get me out of the camera shot. Push me down.
We'll tell him to cut the camera.
Yeah, I have it all afternoon. I thought it was just my rotator cuff, but it's not. It's,
Perhaps you should see about that.
oh, yeah. When I fall over.
Are we ready? It's 8 o'clock, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And everyone, remember to turn your cell phones off, turn your microphones on. We'll have roll call.
Mayor Schomburger,
Here.
Counselor Anderson,
Here.
Counselor Bain,
Here.
Counselor Baker,
Here.
Counselor Becker,
Here.
Counselor Dykes.
Here.
We have a copy of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 10th. Are there any corrections?
I had one thing. I remember that Bo brought up during our conversation about the ATVs. I couldn't find it in the minutes. Does anybody remember that? And that Bo gave a,
I pointed out that for those off-highway vehicles,
right?
they're not allowed to cross a state highway.
I didn't see that in the minutes. Did anybody else see that? Is that there? But this is my point, Bo. It's not whether it's there or not. I'm gonna bring it up now, since I already have broached the subject. When I went to the legislative session at CML, and when I gave my report here, I looked back in my notes. I noted that, ATVs are now allowed to cross. Yeah,
Golf carts are, ATVs are not,
are you sure about that?
quite sure.
Okay, can somebody check and verify it? Because this past legislative session, I think it was changed.
Golf cars were added,
I know golf carts were, but I also wrote down ATVs.
no. And you know, an ATV is not what they're called in the statutes. They're called off-highway vehicles, and they can't cross a highway. Golf cars can only cross a highway. They can't drive down a highway.
Well, what I wrote down, and I didn't see the actual statute in writing, I heard it at the legislative session, and I remembered it because of, Kim's request that now, they have word legal to cross. So I think I'm gonna check it with,
I'll check it as well.
thanks, Bo.
Are we going to correct the past minutes, or are we going to list that as the minutes, in the minutes of this meeting?
If that wasn't
can do both.
included in the meeting, maybe we should include it in the minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
yep.
Do you want his full description of everything that he added? Cause he had, I'll just go back and put what he said exactly.
Anything else? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
I do. Second.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Visitors and delegations, the Brush Area Museum. Steve Rohde.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Steve Rohde. I am the chairman of the Brush Area Museum and Cultural Center Board of Directors, and I'm here representing that entity. I would like to thank the Brush City Council for their continued support, as well as ask for some more support, and that's why I'm here. The purpose of my being here is to address the area of museum storage. Now, I know that your budget is in the process of doing a whole lot of things, and it may be $1 short here, but I'm going to give you the spiel anyway. Storage is needed at the museum in order to supply an area where we can move materials to encourage variety at the museum. Now, that may sound kind of ho-hum, but basically what we've found is that most of our visitors at the museum are visitors from out of town. And we are trying to promote in this community the idea that you can come to the museum and have some fun there, and you can come there more than once every 4 or 5 years, and we're trying to change those displays and things that are out there. Let me just make one statement. I'm kind of surprised that when you talk to people around the community, some people that have been here for 2 or 3 generations don't even know we have a museum, and only you can answer this question, but think to yourself as when the last time you were to the museum, and if you were to the museum sometime back, why haven't you come there more often? And what we're trying to do is address this business of the local people being able to want to come there. Museum request for storage was initiated in 2014. A presentation was made at the city council in that year, and we were asking for security, for a secure location in order to promote the storage. Currently, the museum has items stored in 5 locations throughout Brush, as well as one in Sterling. So we're trying to get along here as far as being able to store these things, but we've got approximately $25,000 to $30,000 worth of items, and these items are basically the major items. There's about 4 or 5 major items that make up the bulk of that. We have a 1917 Model T. We have a 1944 John Deere A, and both of those are stored through working with Lance, he helped me get a temporary location for those two items. We've got an 1890 Studebaker buggy that's currently at the Sterling Museum, being stored there at for us. And we've got several antique firearms that are stored in a private location at the in a private house here in town, as well as we have items, quite a few of the miscellaneous items, stored at Central School. You may ask again why we are thinking about this pretty heavily about the storage, and we want to be able to store the donations again for the future and for people that are donating items. Now, we've had to turn away probably 3 or 4 items donation-wise because of their size, because we don't have any place to put them. We had a 1970 vintage car, I believe it was, that somebody wanted to give us that car, and basically we just didn't have a place to locate it. The museum has been storing some items in private locations since their inception in 1994. And the items that are in the Central School right now is, being Central is a kind of an uncertainty at this point in time, as well as the conditions over there with the pigeons and whatnot are pretty tough. And also, we've had a total of 4 break-ins over at Central School, 3 of which have been reported to the police, and 1 was not. It was happened some years ago, but it just never was reported. The break-ins, and I've got some pictures here of them, we can't determine very well whether we've lost a whole lot, but what happens is people get in there and they start tearing boxes open and throwing stuff around just to be silly, and that type of a thing. The proposed structure that we're talking about, I've made a calculation, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 square feet, and that amounts to, if we can round that off, about a 30 by 40 building with a hard surface walls and a ceiling. And I think that calculates out to about $25 a square foot, somewhere in that area. Okay, in summary, the items that we're looking at concerning the storage of them, it is valued fairly high. I mean, not exorbitantly high, but $25,000 to $30,000 is really nothing to sneeze at, especially when these items are donated. We do have items in 5 locations. We have been rejecting some items here lately, and like I say, we're in need of a 1,200 square foot building. If you want the museum to progress, I'm not saying expand, but just to progress. As you well know, when you bring things into your own house, after a while, this starts rolling out the doorway, and you got to do one of 2 things: either throw it away, sell it, or put in another storage area, or do something on that order. So that's what I'm asking is that you at least get consideration for that, because like I say, we're to the point where we're storing stuff out of town, as well as in private businesses here. And in closing, I truly understand the budget issues from my past career, and I know that there are a lot of entities asking for monies and those types of things, and it's a gut-wrenching thing from start to finish. And some constituents are happy, and some constituents are not as happy. I would thank you for this consideration at this point in time, and I will just see if you have any questions. I do have some photographs of the last break-in that we had over at Central, as well as the broken windows and those types of things, but do you have any questions at this point?
Thank you for that, and we have discussed it. In fact, at our last work session, we discussed it and how we could help out the museum with that. And so we're working in those directions to try to find something available.
Okay.
So
And I-
it's not
and
a
I-
short-term fix that we have, but we're looking into things for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck.
Yeah.
And like I say, Lance and I have talked various and sundry times about some shared facilities too. We have no great problem, you know, with those types of things, and hopefully something can, excuse me, can come about. But we're kind of in a position here, if we really want that place to kind of
Yep.
have more going on, and I can show you again and if you want some of these facts and figures, I'll be more than happy to show them to you, as well as a drawing.
We
With history.
understand the bind you're in with having a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And if we had the space, we'd give it to you,
I just,
or let you use it, but, yeah.
I don't want to get to the point in time where, and I've, you know, experienced this before, where you come and find out that, well, you really didn't present your case very well, and they don't even know that you have a case. And I just didn't want something to come along and say, well, you know, we didn't even know the museum had a problem in this area, so I just want to make sure that we've got some indication.
One thing I'd like to point out, being on the Brush Museum Committee, that I think is a problem because of the storage, is Steve mentioned the point that a lot of people haven't been to the museum for a long time, and I was that way too. And part of it is, to be able to turn over those items and get people to come more often, you have to have a storage facility close by to kind of change the place over a little bit, which would encourage more people to come visit it more often. And I think our past is an important piece of Brush. And I don't think the problem is gaining items. I think the problem is having a place to put the items that people are generous enough to give to the museum. So I think it is very important that if we want this museum, like Steve said, not to necessarily expand, but if we want it to exist, we got to change the way we're doing something. And it's going to require an investment to do that. So I would hope the rest of council would consider that.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to number 5, management, second and final reading of ordinance number 851-16.
Okay, ordinance 851-16, that is the ordinance, this is the second and final reading of that. And previously I discussed it, or we discussed it at council, and it's a lease on a farm that we purchased this last year. And that farm, we're just wanting that, or hoping the council will approve moving that forward to a lease agreement for a 5-year term. And treat that just like all the rest of our city farms.
Is there a motion to adopt on second reading and publish by title only?
I'll make a motion that we adopt on second final reading ordinance number 851-16, an ordinance approving the lease of certain real estate owned by the city of Brush for a term of near 5 years.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? And roll call vote.
Mayor Schomburger?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Counselor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Counselor Dykes?
Yes.
I do have a quick question. May I, Chuck?
Okay.
9.5 shares of water. So what are we up to? What is our total water shares? Dale, do you know?
As far as,
Where does this put us with the absolute number of water shares that we own?
that's not the easy question to answer because we have a lot of water shares in different areas. If you're talking about the Upper Platte and Beaver, I believe that brings us up to 99 1/4.
Okay,
I will verify that and get back to you.
thanks.
Moving on to number B, letter to CDOT, speed reduction.
Okay, at a previous city council meeting, the city council gave city staff the direction to let CDOT know that we're wanting to change the speed limit, and that's the speed limit right in front of the East Morgan County Hospital. And currently, it's 45 miles per hour there, and the request is to take it down to 35 miles per hour. And there is a previous study done by the hospital with an engineering company that does street studies, and essentially, we have to send this letter in. This starts I believe it's a 60-day period. It's 60 days, Dale. 60-day period for them to comment back. And if there are no comments, then we can change that speed limit sign there in front of the hospital. So we're asking for an approval on this and the mayor's signature so we can send that off.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the letter to CDOT concerning the speed reduction.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
That's not very far. We're talking 171.23
Yeah.
minus 170.89.
It's just in front of the hospital. So
Just
instead of going up to 45 right at Ebenezer, it won't go up to 45 until you're past the hospital.
Just past it.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And I can see the need for it, but I sure like the 45 out there, but I can see the need for it. And my other thought on that is if we do get to change the speed limit, we should put those electronic signs up for a month or so saying speed limit change.
Some sort of.
Something to let people, because it's been that for forever, so. All right. No other discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Mayor Schomburger.
Yes. Number C, DOLA grant for fire department building.
Okay, for the grant application for the new fire department building, or the portion of the fire department building that will be new, the Bay Area, we're wanting to submit the DOLA grant, the Energy Impact Fund grant application. We have it probably about 95% complete at this point. We're gonna finish up the review on it this week, but we'd like to in the next week or so to get that out the door. It's very similar to the last grant application that we had put together. But we're pretty confident that we have all of our ducks in a row, so we're requesting authorization to submit that grant in the next week or two.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the DOLA grant for the fire department building.
Second.
Second, discussion?
Yep.
Roll call vote.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson.
Yes.
Moving down to number 6, finance.
I move that we approve disbursements and payroll from October 10th through 24th, 2016 totaling, and I don't have the total in front of me.
There you go.
Yeah,
Next
right
page.
there.
Thank you. $366,398.96.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Bain.
Yes.
Number B, 2017 proposed budget presentation of capital items. Who goes first with this? Joanne, is that you?
Just briefly, this evening in your packets, you did have the 2017 proposed capital projects that the department heads had turned in. And so this evening, each of the department heads are going to go through their wish list, and the page numbers are on the upper right-hand corner. And so we'll start out with Travis and the police department first.
Okay, the first one that I was going to bring to your attention is our patrol vehicles. Budgeted for 2 vehicles, a Charger and a pickup. The pickup would be utilized for the K-9 unit and our officer who cannot fit into a smaller car. So that would be that capital request, total of $87,000. The next was the purchase of 12 body cameras at a total of $4,800. That'll help reduce liability and offer evidence into the criminal justice system. Next is replace 2 police computers at a total of $5,000 estimated they'd be about $2,500 a piece. We have two that's on its last leg. So was looking for a total cost of $5,000 there. And last is our K-9 program. I'd requested $11,000, but I want to bring to your attention we've received approximately $7,000 in donations thus far, and then just this week I got a grant for $4,500. So probably won't need that much. So we're getting close. So, but I requested $11,000 for it.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Any questions? Moving on to community development. Karen, who's going to do it for
Okay,
Karen?
I'll be doing that for Karen. She's at a training right now. First item that Karen has, this is page 7, and this is replacing the rooftop HVAC units that services the council chambers, and that is for $8,000 for 2017. We also, on page 8, we have a request for City Hall drainage improvements, and that's in the back of City Hall. We have a place where there's really not a place for the water that comes down the downspouts to go, and so it creates a big ice slick. And so we're looking at that project and approximately $12,000 for that project. We have on page 9, Capital Reserve Fund, we have a recreation office carpet installation, and that's for $6,000, and that's one that we're not quite sure, probably we'll be pulling that one out because we're gonna be looking at maybe different location for Lance. That's just really dependent upon how the school district ballot goes, and if there's space and buildings over there, doesn't make sense to carpet where Lance is at now if there could be a potential of a different building for Lance, so. But that's to be determined in the future. On page 10, we have the Quiet Zone Phase 2 study, and this is to get the engineer to come in and look at the Quiet Zone projects for the city of Brush and any new federal laws or rules on how to do quiet zones and any additional engineering information that we need for the Quiet Zone project. Page 11 is the Airport North Access Easement. After we did the airport layout plan a few years ago, they really encouraged us to look at a different access point to the airport and start building out some of the vacant land on the north side of the airport. And so we need to get an easement to get through that property that's there, and that would cost approximately $5,500. And the last item, page 12, is the golf course clubhouse carpet replacement, and that's $11,000.
Thank you. Moving on, Lance Schwint, Cemetery, Parks, Recreation.
The first one is replace a 3/4 ton pickup with our Parks Department. Currently, the pickup is $2,000. It also with us, which was originally the Water Department back in the day. One thing that now with us having the golf course, need for us is being able to plow the parking lot in case of snowstorms, which would require us to have a 4-wheel drive along with a snow plow, because that's gonna be one of the major things to get plowed off, especially during open hours for the restaurant and everything. So that would be the replacement for that, would be $47,000. We will be asking the foundation for partial funding for this project. The next one is replacing the boilers at the swimming pool. Those boilers were put in 1995. Really ran its life, it's probably more so than probably what they should have. What even makes it more difficult for those boilers is that it's in the same room as our chlorine tank. And so the corrosiveness of the chlorine is really hard on them. So with the water and everything running through them, this was something that we were going to try to replace 2 years ago. But luckily we have Tim on our staff, and he was able to get them running for the last 2 years. So they pretty much went kaput here towards the end of the pool season. So it is a must to keep the pool up and running. This project also will be requesting some money funding from the foundation, but we're looking at around $50,000 for that fix.
Well, that's for one boiler on the new one
Yeah,
rather than two?
Yeah, we have
Okay.
two, but we feel like with all the technology now, we can get by with the one boiler because they're much more efficient.
Okay.
This is, the boiler itself probably won't be that, but we're gonna have to take apart all the, to get in there, with all the plumbing and everything else, so it's gonna be quite the job to get this accomplished, so. 50,000 is a pretty fair estimate. The next one is a new utility vehicle for the cemetery. One thing I've learned from the park, cemetery, and golf course is that those utility vehicles are more valuable than pickups. I mean, they allow you to get from work site to work site with all your stuff instead of having to carry stuff from a roadway over to your work site. And by being able to do that, it probably cuts down a lot on the workers' comp and everything like that. So the utility vehicles, I don't think you could ever have enough of them. So this would be an addition to what we already have. So we're looking at that to be around $19,500. The next one is a slide over at the Memorial Park playground. I don't know if you guys know the red slide over there. It's a metal one. All the fiberglass is flaking off, and when kids go down it, every now and then they get it in their hands and everything like that. It's been something that we've known that we've needed to replace over the years, but we just haven't, we've always kind of put it off. But it's getting to the point that for no matter what, we're going to at least pull it out. But it would be nice to put something back in to replace it. Again, it's another one of those requests that we will be going to the foundation to see if they will be able to pay for half of it. And that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. The next one is one we have talked about in prior council meetings, the master plan. We had talked about the $15,000 to do a match. Within the request for the Joslyn Needham request this year, I'll ask for that $7,500 of the $15,000. If he denies me, then we'll have to go back to the budget for the full $15,000, but we are hoping that the foundation will pay for half of the request. The actual master plan itself is about a $60,000 project, and we're hoping that GOCO, with the grant that I'm writing that's due November 17th, that we'll be awarded that, and we'll be able to conduct that master plan next year. The next one is golf carts from the over at the golf course. Again, we're asking $4,500. We eventually want to get to 20 golf carts. We're at 14 now. This will be another project that we request partial funding from the foundation. The $4,500 would be the city's contribution, and we'll ask for another $4,500. And if we got the $9,000, I think we'd be fully stocked with golf carts. We'd be able to get the 6, hopefully, by doing some various trades and everything else with some equipment that we need to trade and all that sort of thing. And then finally, the parking lot over at the golf course. We have talked about that even in recent times, about even trying to maybe get that done in the fall. With the weather changing the way it is, I don't know if we're quite there yet, and we're still in discussions as far as funding with the foundation and a few other entities, so we're still looking at that on exactly when, timing-wise, when we can get that done. That's another project that, you know, now that the golf course is there, anybody who's been out there after a rainstorm or a snowstorm knows the difficulty of getting into the clubhouse itself. I think it'd be a very worthy project for the community because we are getting more and more people out there. We get a lot of the civic groups out there, and you know, we're trying to make that a place that the Brush citizens can be really proud of. So, and that's pretty much everything. Unless somebody has any questions for me.
Thank you. I didn't realize till you were near the end that you don't have a microphone.
Dale turned
You didn't
it
have a
on.
microphone.
I know.
So it's a little late.
I didn't notice either.
Say it all again, Lance.
All right, now give it
Start
over to
over.
Dale because it's time for Dale for street water and trash and wastewater and stormwater and everything.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First item I have up is on page number 21. The capital reserve fund is the replacement of the salt sand building door. This is currently a fabric door that runs on rails, and in recent years, we've been having difficulties with it operating properly, and it's starting to wear out. And so we looked at it, and we want to replace it with a solid panel door, kind of help the opening and the closing and something a little more reliable than just a cloth door that we have on it currently. Next item in the capital reserve fund is the replacement of the portable tree branch chipper. This tree branch chipper is 25 years old, and it's seen a lot of wood in its day, and it's starting to get wore out. And so we're looking for $20,000 for the replacement of that unit. Next item out of capital reserve fund will be the replacement of a 1999 FL 80 Freightliner dump truck. At the time of replacement, it's going to be close to 18 years old. Plus, this is one of our smaller dump boxes. It's a 10-yarder, not a 12, so we would be actually upsizing that capacity of that truck as well as keeping our fleet modern. Looking at roughly right around, I believe, $148,000 for that. Next item out of capital reserve fund will be trading out the loader. We try to rotate this loader out every 2 to 3 years. It's a heavy piece of equipment, and good operations essential for getting the job done. And back in 2014, it was due to be rotated out, but it was in such good condition back then, we couldn't hardly see rotating it out just so early. So we've deferred that for 3 years now again. And this would be split amongst several funds, general water as well as wastewater, because it is used amongst the different funds. Looking at $120,000 for that replacement. Next is going to be the purchase of a new snow blower. Currently, the city actually does snow removal, not snow plowing. Edison Street, is a good example. If we were to plow everything to the sides, then we have block sidewalks and everything like that. If you snow shovel out around your car, we come through with our plow, we snow it, and plow it back in. So what we try to do is we plow everything to the center and try to pick it up with a snow blower. This unit's starting to wear out. It was replaced back in 1997, but it's starting to see its age. We're having to do a lot of field repairs, and it slows us down. And as a good example, during the Christmas Eve blizzard of 1982, the snow blower that they had at the time was out of service, and it took them, the crew back then, until February of 1983 to get all the streets cleared. And that was when we actually had contract outside help to do that as well. So being able to get in and get the snow removed is very important, so not only from a public safety standpoint, but also from the utility standpoint if we have to get to a water break or a sewer backup or anything along those lines. And this would also be split up amongst the different funds. Next item is going to be a rollover of the downtown project. Currently, due to utilities and the difficulty they've had with groundwater and the depth at which the construction crew is digging on our current downtown phase, we're gonna have to roll part of this project, which is specifically getting across Colorado Avenue as well as the 300 block of Edmonds. That's the only part of this project that's gonna be left after this, the last part of this year. And so this is just a rollover of that remaining funds in order to get that accomplished. Next item is Emerson Street. This is another rollover project. Emerson Street over by Sunset Ball Field has its asphalt damage from the heavy rains we experienced in 2013 and especially 2015. And it's starting to come apart. We have some potential FEMA funding to help replace this, but we weren't able to get to it this year. One of the reasons we didn't get to it this year is we made some improvements to the drainage. We needed to make sure that that worked effectively, and it has, before we actually go back in and put good asphalt down and have it ruined again. So that would be for a total of $80,000. Next item is going to be Mill Street. Just like Emerson Street, this was severely damaged with a lot of the moisture that we received over the last several years. It does have some federal highway assistance funding with it. And, but by the time we got through all the federal requirements to get approvals to repave this particular stretch of Mill Street, it's gonna be too late in the season. It wouldn't be until the end of November before we could even let it bid. So we're gonna roll that over into next year. And we're looking at roughly about $425,000 for this project. The next item is going to be the improvement of Elm Street, paving it. And you look at your packet, it shows that it was $125,000. However, at the time that this was put into the packet, we We didn't have the complete engineer's estimate, and I need to add another 60,000, so it's gonna be a 185,000. The reason being is this is major reconstruction. Whenever you do major reconstruction of streets, you have to make sure that everything is ADA compliant, and those sidewalks are not. So we're having to go back through and make sure that the sidewalks and everything is ADA compliant, in addition to paving the street as well. Moving on to the water fund, they're looking for a purchase of a small 4x4 utility vehicle or a off-highway vehicle. And one of the reasons they would like to do that is there are sand hills, is where our well field is out in the sand hills, and sometimes it's very difficult to get in and around there with a big, heavy pickup truck. When you do go through those sand hills, which is a fragile environment, we sometimes tear up the area around the roadways. And so by being able to move to a small 4x4 utility vehicle, we hope to lessen the environmental impact on that particular well field, the sand hills themselves, as well as make it easier for these guys to get in and around without getting stuck or having to have to be pulled out. $30,000 for that item out of the water fund. Next item is going to be from the water and wastewater funds. This is going to be the English Property Redevelopment Master Plan. We are still wanting to be able to take that property and redevelop it into industrial or commercial uses. And to do that, it's best that we have a master plan, and so we know where we're going with that particular property in the future. We're requesting $50,000 for that. The next item is going to be for the English farmland improvements. Part of this master plan is we're going to be trying to develop this property for industrial and commercial uses, but right now, its contours are best suited for a feedlot. And so what we're wanting to do is start working on certain sections of the feedlot, start leveling it out, and start making it where it's actually marketable with the elevations and contours. And so we're looking at $100,000 for this year. This will probably be a multi-year request. Next item is going to be a replacement of a 4x4 utility pickup in the water department. We try to rotate out a pickup every 3 years, and so by the time it gets down through the system, it's usually about 6 years old. So we'll be looking for $40,000 for the replacement of a water department vehicle. Next item is the replacement of the water department backhoe. We try to rotate these things, this backhoe out every 2 to 3 years, just like we try to do with the loader. When we do rotate this particular unit out, it usually goes to the cemetery because we do keep it in good condition, keep it well serviced. And so the cemetery always gets a good backhoe that they can depend on, and the water department always has a very dependable backhoe that they can use to respond to water breaks and other items. And so we'll be looking at $48,000 for that rotation. Next item in the water fund will be the upgrade of the electrical services to wells numbers 6, 7, and 8. Currently, those wells use underground electrical, and in the past several years, we've been having a lot of problems with those electrical lines, whether it's rodents or something, or a lightning strike. We always have there, sometimes we get an electrical leg that just drops out, and we have to call REA to come out and try and fix it. And sometimes that runs several thousands of dollars every time that they have to try to come out, troubleshoot it, find it. So the proposal is to take it from being underground and put it up as an overhead where we can physically see it, and if there is any problems with it, we can repair it without having to try to chase it down through the sand hills. We're looking for $35,000 for this particular project. Next item comes from the trash and garbage fund, and it's going to be replacing one of the 2 trash trucks. Whenever you get a truck that hauls that much waste and that kind of tonnage day in and day out for as many years as they have, it puts a lot of wear on these vehicles. The truck that we're looking at is replacing the Sterling brand trash truck, which was purchased in 2005, and it's experiencing the most wear. And just as an illustrating the point, we're back down to 1 trash truck because it's down again, so it's broken again. Hope to get it up. So we're looking right around $200,000 for the replacement of that trash truck. Next item will be in wastewater, and we're looking for a biosolids dewatering press. One of the methods we use to dispose of our biosolids, which is the byproduct of our wastewater treatment, is liquid application to a alfalfa site. This is proved awkward over the years, especially when you're having to work with the rotation of the cutting, the drying, the baling of the alfalfa, and then trying to get out there and apply the biosolids in a liquid form, and still have the farmer be able to get out to that site. It also produces problems when we're dealing with crop rotations. And one of the reasons we bought the English site with the wastewater was to have an additional and a redundant biosolid site, but we can't haul liquids there. We'll have to haul solids. And so this was one of those ways of being able to get the solids generated that we can put out there, and then after they harvest the corn, we can incorporate it into that site itself. The treatment facility was always designed to have some sort of dewatering press involved. It's just we're at that cusp where it really doesn't make sense to go the full build out for this dewatering press, but we need to have something right now that allows us to manage these biosolids much more effectively. And we're looking at right around $563,000 for that particular unit. Next item in wastewater is the digester cleaning. Biosolids treatment, we do anaerobic digestion, and after a while, we'll get grease, grit, and hair, and just other materials that build up in the digester, and they have to be cleaned out periodically. Good management typically is anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And so we're at that point where we're about 5 years into it, and we'll need to get it replaced. We're looking at a cost of about $50,000. Next item is a continuation of a request that we started last year, and that is the replacement of mixers and recirculation pumps for our aeration basin. The brand that we received when we had the new wastewater plant, while it did meet the engineering specs and it was the cheapest, and it doesn't always mean it's the best. We've been having to send these mixers off to be replaced, or not replaced, but actually repaired on a regular basis. 2015 to date, the repair costs on these mixers have been right around $13,000. So this will be our second year of replacing it, and we'll have 2 more years to go. We're looking at $50,000 for this request. Next item will be from the stormwater fund, and that is the replacement of the street sweeper. And so we're looking at, this unit is 2008. It's been experiencing a lot of breakdowns lately. We're having to do a lot of repairs, especially on the box, because whenever you pick up sand and gravel in those type of metal boxes, it tends to pit and wear away, and we're constantly having to have metal replaced inside that sweeper. The engine's fatigued, the motor's fatigued. This is a unit that's pretty much driven, except for in the wintertime, every day. We are looking at $255,000 for the replacement of the street sweeper.
Hey Dale, on that request, it says 20,000 in repairs the last 3 years. Is that for each of the last 3 years, or is that the total over the 3 years?
I would believe that's the total over
Total.
the last 3 years.
Okay, and this was a request you had last year, also, I think, for the street
And the year
sweeper?
before that.
And the year, that's what I was trying to get at. How long have you been trying to?
We've been, well, ever since I took over this position, we've been
Okay.
requesting for this replacement, and I think even before that. But
Okay.
we've had other priorities with the stormwater fund. We just
Yeah.
haven't been able to get
Okay.
to this particular priority at this time. And then finally, out of the stormwater fund is going to be the Williams Street catch basin replacement. After CDOT came through and rebuilt the interstate, they were able to correct some of the elevations that allow our stormwater to go along the CDOT property and actually enter into our stormwater system from the Williams Street area. And this catch basin, what we want to do is sort of like what we've done over at the Sunset Ball Fields on Emerson Street, put a combination inlet in there, much larger. And the current catch basin right now flows into a lift station. So we have to rely on there being electrical in the first place during a thunderstorm in order for this Williams Street to drain. And so what we want to do is move this into a gravity flow catch basin, and we're requesting $10,000 for this particular project. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Is that all?
Yeah.
I have more, really. I really,
I have one to add to the list as well. At some point, I would like to see the street department get an actual adequate size pickup to fog, and not the small pickup, but a larger pickup where the fogger could be set up higher in order to fog. That's what we always used when I was supervising mosquito control. And so even if we could get one from another department or however,
We'll look into that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Next is Tyler Purvis, Marketing. And who's taking that?
Tyler was unable to attend this evening, so I'm going to do that for him. He actually starts on page 43. His first item is on page 44, and that would be the new sign on the north side of the municipal complex. If you'll notice, that's still the old sign, so we want to upgrade to that new sign. That's roughly $3,500 to do that. His next item is the new business incentive program. This is one that we continue to do each year, but it's designed to encourage the establishment of new businesses within the downtown area through assisting with new or relocating or expanding those businesses. And this year he's requested $6,000. We also have the construction of the digital marquee. You may recall that the city donated $5,000 to Brush Grocery Cart and an additional $5,000 to the school district. So we are using both of their marquees now, but we're wanting to, in partnership with the hospital, budget another $15,000 for a couple more marquees throughout the community in different spots of the community. And that is his last item.
One thing, Joe, I noticed, maybe someone else has the answer to this. I noticed the high school's marquee is gone now.
Yeah, it's not up yet, the new one.
Oh, they were getting a new one. Okay.
Yeah, the new one's coming in. The superintendent just said it's pretty close, and then
Oh.
they'll get that
Yeah.
installed. And then the city, probably either Tyler or Andrew will be kind of our point of contact to get information that we have to them, and they'll put it onto their digital marquee.
Okay.
Next is Ted Anderson, Fire. Who's going to do that? Are you going to do the fire?
Absolutely. You want me to microphone?
Come up to the microphone. It's not for us, it's for the TV.
Just glad I
There
didn't
you
have to
go.
follow Dale. So first up for the fire department is page 48, which is the replacement of the apparatus bays. Basically be looking at tearing down the existing bays as they currently are, keeping the existing meeting room and kitchen area. Looks like it's a three-way split between a $600,000 proposed DOLA grant, $315 from the capital reserve, and then $315 from the IGA with the Rural Fire Protection District, for a total of $1.23 million. Second up is page 49, which is the fire training center. Fire training center, basically a system of connexes, large steel boxes, which will be put together. They're multifaceted, allows us to work on search and rescue, live burn operations, venting operations, life safety situations that we encounter every day within the community when we have emergency calls. Total cost on that, total expenditures would be $250,000. And that's it for us.
All right. Questions? Thank you. Next is Andrea Strand, City Clerk.
Okay. We are requesting $15,000 to upgrade the microphone system to accommodate municipal court recordings as they progress to become a court of record. We're not quite sure if our existing equipment will be adequate, so this gives us some room to add what they need to become a court of record.
That's a long list.
Yeah.
Wow. You and Dale, get it. Next is Monty Torres, Administrative.
Okay, just two items to go. First one on page 53 is replacing the current administrator's vehicle. We have that down for $34,000. And I just noticed it says 17 years old, Joanne. I think it was 17. Was it 17 years old? Maybe it is 17 years old. I thought it was.
I thought I double
Like-
checked it, but
Like,
I'll double.
I thought it was like 12 or 13 years old, but I think you guys have all seen the car. So that's the first item. The second item is making improvements to the rental property on the Bostrom Farm. That's the new city farm that we're leasing out. There's a single-family residential home. We have a renter in it, and it's in pretty bad shape. And so one of the things that we're gonna come to council with is ask you, what do you wanna do with that rental property, the house itself? If we want to keep renting it, but if we're gonna rent it, we need to fix it up. Needs a roof, needs some windows, doors, paint, probably siding, everything. So we put in $50,000 for some of those improvements. If the council says we don't wanna be in that rental business anymore, and we'll have money to knock down the building if we come to that point. But we had to put something in the budget, just, we're not sure which direction we're going with council yet, but you guys will hear about that probably first of the year. And the only other comment I had, I was gonna, just for the newer council members that haven't been through a budget process, in the general fund alone, well, I believe it was almost $600,000 of request, the general fund alone. We can't pay for all of those, can't afford them all. And so as a general rule of thumb, I'm always shooting for at least getting under $300,000 in that. So half of those requests are gonna have to go. The other thing is, this being a little tighter year we're getting into as far as other costs that we have, it may even be a lot less than that 300,000. So that's where Joanne and I will run the numbers again, and we'll look at it. I've already talked to different department heads, and they kind of got an idea already of which ones I'm gonna recommend to council not to do. So they all have, some of those discussions have taken place. But Joanne and I will keep working that spreadsheet and understanding the numbers better. We'll put it into our bigger budget picture so we can see all the costs, because we want to try and maintain at least that 3 months of operating cost as a reserve in each one of those budgets. Some of our enterprise funds, no problem. They'll have 12 months, 14 months in their budget in reserve, so not a big deal. But we don't want to get anything under that 3 months of operating cost. That's just an emergency pot of money, just in case something goes bad. We have something to fall back on. Now, bigger picture, and I was trying to remember the numbers, but collectively, everything in here was 4-point-something million. I can't, like 4.2, 4.3 million. And same thing is, we're probably gonna be shooting more for around 2.8, maybe $3 million or something like that collectively. We have a few bigger ticket items with the fire department building, that's 1.2 right by itself. So we're not gonna be able to knock that one probably all the way in half, but we're going to try and get a better budget put together that is doable for the city of Brush. And so that's what you'll see at the council retreat on November 14th. We'll have a quick council meeting, and then right after that, we'll dive into the budget retreat. And that's where the city council will give us that final direction of what we're gonna put into the budget and present in December for approval.
Moving on. Number 7, staff reports. Finance Director Joanne.
I actually just had one item, and that was to remind the council that our next council meeting would be the budget retreat, and that we'll be presenting that evening.
All right, thank you. Second is the police. Travis.
Just a couple things. This week we sent one of our officers to become a Narcan instructor. In today's drug world, they're starting to use fentanyl as a cutting agent, and it takes a very small amount to put somebody down. So everybody's going to be trained and equipped with Narcan. So, and then we made an arrest of an individual yesterday, Miles Nordahl, pretty bad character, but we was able to get him into custody, and he's now in the Morgan County Jail.
Was he the felon that escaped?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So. we was
Good
able to
job.
get him.
Very good. Parks and Recreation, Lance.
Just one thing, we're in the process now of, with all the holiday parties, starting to book places. We ask anybody to consider there at the golf course, to host their holiday party, and they can go ahead and give Mary or Sean a call at 842-9798. And we are filling up fast, so, it'd be a good time to call in.
Great. Good thing we're filling up.
Yeah.
Utilities, Dale.
Thank you. 2 items I'd like to bring out. First is just a repeat from last council session, was that the leaves are falling, and they're falling rapidly. You just ask that you don't put them out in the street, bag them up, put them out with your regular trash. We'll pick them up at no charge, as long as it's just leaves and not trash. No sticks, no milk cartons, etc. The next item is we're winding down on this portion of downtown project for winter shutdown, and so we will be paving any of those disturbed streets next week, and hope to have that finished up by the 4th, November 4th.
Very good. Fire department?
Nothing.
Nothing. All right. City clerk, Andrea.
Okay. Just a reminder that on November 3rd at 10 a.m. at the Morgan County Fairgrounds, the Colorado Tourism Roadmap Listening Session will be there, and you're all encouraged to give your opinions on local tourism. And November 8th is Election Day, so make sure you're registered to vote. The county clerk has a drop site that's available 24 hours a day outside the Morgan County Admin Building at 231 Ensign. And then also on Election Day at the Mark Arndt Building at the fairgrounds, they will have a polling center open for anyone who needs assistance on Election Day only. And let's see. I guess that's it. That's enough.
Thank you. Finally, administrator.
Okay, a few items. First one is, I guess it's just one item, but it's just a lot of activity in Brush. I think most of us are probably aware that we have 3 houses that are currently being constructed on Howell Avenue. And so 2 of those are pretty far along already as far as the frames up and everything. And then we also have, I believe tomorrow they're gonna start digging a basement on that 3rd house up there as well. We have 2 permits for duplexes. One is being processed, the second one is already issued. And one of those duplexes is already being constructed on South Clifton Street. Next one is we have also 2 individuals that have expressed interest in the west side of Brush, the Yosemite Street area. And so that would be another potentially 2 more houses that are looking at permits. We have a permit for a Tesla station. Tesla is the electric cars, and that's slated to go out in the at the Tomahawk truck stop. So that's sounding pretty positive, and that issue's been sent out or approved. Also still communication with Love's Travel Center, and they're still, as far as we know, shooting for the March timeframe to put their project out to bid. We have Ebenezer, who has their large expansion. You know, the permits are out there, and so that's a very large project and potentially a multi-year project. And then we have the temporary workforce housing, some interest there in that special use permit coming forward. We have quite a bit of information as part of the application package, so that's something that'll be coming to council in the near future. And then also the Converge Center out at an industrial park. That SOUP information is coming in. It's just not all complete yet, but that's another one that we feel that you'll see by the end of the year for a special use permit. That's all I have.
Thank you. Council, anything to report or concerns?
I had a citizen call me regarding that, is it a shed or garage across from 7-Eleven in that alley, right there? If it's gonna be on your list of things to pursue.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the list that Councilor Kim Dykes is talking about is, it's part of our beautification plan is for the community. Beautifying Brush campaign is to start addressing some of the dilapidated structures that are throughout the community. We've had good luck this last year with one property being purchased and totally remodeled, so kept that property going. We had another property that the fire department, they did training in on the south side of town, the Rosewood Edition. So they got, I think, a few months of training in it, and then there's a burn to burn it down finally, and then the owners cleaned up that property. And then Janine actually had mentioned to me that some of the sheds or lean-tos on that you brought up, that the people just voluntarily went out and took some of those down, or one of them. I'm not sure how many were out there total, but and then there's the intent is to not have 10 or 15 going on at the same time, but just keep picking these up slowly. And Chief Anderson has made contact with one property owner about an issue with the house that, I'm not sure if it's a drug house or, but it's not a good place to be and not the best condition. And so he's working that angle with the property owner. And probably be the start of this upcoming year, I'll do another round of 2 or 3. And then the process, to remind council, is I get with our city attorney, we look up all the information on the property, give them some pictures of the property. Some of those pictures come from code enforcement if they've been dealing with the structure before. And then not sure the document, but Bo puts together a letter informing them that, they need to clean up the property and come to the city within 30 or 60 days and let us know what their plan is to clean up the property. And then, and that worked out last time. It worked out pretty well. So, beginning of the year, we'll start another probably 2 or 3 of those and just keep that process
Yeah.
going.
She was just more concerned of going down the alley and having it
Mhm.
fall onto her going down the alley.
Yeah, and on that one, there was interest 6 months ago. We had heard that the Lions Club might have an interest in doing a community service project and knocking it down, but then that didn't develop.
Anything else? I'd like to mention that the entrance sign by Ebenezer, the brush sign, I don't know, I'm not sure who did it, but it looks very nice. They got some hay bales out in front and some other fall stuff, and it's,
Dwight and Connie and Tim.
yeah, they did a very
Yeah.
good job. It's really, really looking
Nice.
good.
And that did bring up another thought, Mayor, is that I did have a call from I believe it was a school district, I'll have to double check, but they had asked about the community garden concept and wanted to see if there's a way that maybe the school district and some of their students could be somehow part of the process. And we've talked about that, part of our recreation plan, to incorporate a community garden as part of that. And so we'll reach back out to them and see what direction we want to go there.
If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.